Good afternoon from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. Just going to adjust just a little bit. Going a bit squidgy, people of Earth. Oh, that's a bit better. While I fiddle with this. It's the 31st of December 2025, the last day of 2025. Can't say I would be really sad to see that one go. It's been a very challenging year for me emotionally. Lots of complicated grief, as my wonderful, worthy psychiatrist euphemistically termed it. It's a bit more complicated than just grief though, but it's a nice way of saying it's okay to feel the way you feel, Tanya Ahrens. So, Happy New Year to you, Doctor, and Happy New Year to all my other wonderful friends and true beloved ones, friends and countrymen and supporters, excuse me, and those of you who come to my channel and are my audience and subscribers, likers and commenters. I appreciate you supporting me through these very strange times and helping me navigate my way through as I enter, well, I'm halfway through my 61st year, and as I enter my 60s, well and truly entered them with a bit of a hiss and a piss, if the truth be known. But anyway, what can I say? It's a glorious day here at Sacred Space. It's Wednesday, my vegetables arrived. I've got to start cooking them up. I've acquired quite a lot of vegetables. I didn't use a lot from last fortnight, and I went and bought more. They gave me 2 tiny eggplants, which I'm happy about, but they're just so tiny, they're not going to be enough for baba ganoush. So I'll have to go out and buy another tiny one. And they gave me Brussels sprouts, which I utterly abhor since childhood. So anyway, I don't know what I'll do with those. I might give those to someone that likes Brussels sprouts. There's some things I've not let go of since childhood. Yes, so I was a bit annoyed though, because they had texted me, but I didn't receive their text, probably because I was watching a movie on YouTube, so I didn't hear the text come in. And then they usually bring it round to the back or put it into my arms, but because I didn't hear them, they put them halfway up the front steps, and I didn't know it had arrived, so I'd been out there for an hour and a half when I finally saw the text. So I was a bit pissed off about that, but fortunately the vegetables were still, and the fruit was still nice and cool, so I threw them straight in the fridge, and away we go, people of Earth. I forgot to tell you what the time is. It was 2 p.m, so it'll be 2:03 p.m. and 47 seconds and counting. How relative is time in Brisbane, Australia, to the broad scheme of things, since my viewers are from all over the world? Not very relative, but just so you know what time I presented to you my experiential awareness and existence and creativity, blending of time and space, convergences in a parallel universe, as I do sometimes. I've been thinking about that. I was watching a horror movie on YouTube. It was a very good ghost story, actually. Halfway through I realised I've watched it before, but I had no memory of watching it, which is a bit of a worry. I've started to notice that I'm watching movies and I get about a third of the way through and I might go, wait a minute, I've seen this before. But I'm watching it as though it's completely fresh. It's a bit bizarre. Anyway, I enjoyed it. It was called Awakening. It's a very good movie, British ghost story, set in the 1920s. And halfway through it, I was actually filing down my silver little Pegasus ingots that I made and trying to flatten the backs because one side is higher than the other, which is annoying and a lot of work trying to even it out. Because I want to put posts on them and turn them into earrings, so they need to be even on the back. Well, reasonably even anyway. So I was working away at that, watching this movie, and suddenly it occurred to me, I thought, maybe I'm a ghost. Maybe I am actually dead. Maybe that's why I got treated so badly by people I thought loved me, because I'm of no consequence and I don't exist for them, and I'm just a mirage or a non-event or something that was not quite there, neither here nor there of any consequence. And for a moment it was a very chilling thought, but then I scraped my thumb with my rasp and I thought, no, I'm still stuck in physicality because it fucking hurt, man. So, but there is a sense of unreality about, and very much surreality about the last 2 years in particular. It's been a bit, since Beauregard's death, it's been a bit, well, it was chilling before then. COVID got unleashed on our world in early 2020, but it's been a bit surreal ever since. Things don't quite add up or make coherent sense, and we've been lied to and deceived and gaslighted and scapegoated and isolated and marginalised, we being those of us who had the courage to care enough about our fellow human species to scream high and low no, and not participate in the poisoning program. So there is that. But I feel like today especially, it's a beautiful day, but there's a sense of walking between worlds, a sense of paradigmical kind of shifting of standing like a Vitruvian woman in the doorway of a portal, just, or a stargate, like we're being shunted forward into some new, I mean, it just sounds a bit mad, doesn't it? But it's not mad, it's my reality. I feel like we're being pushed forward into something that we did not actually sign up for, apart from the COVID thing. Some other fucking thing. And I don't know exactly what it is, but it's a bit chilling. At one point there I thought, well, maybe it's good if I don't live much longer. I haven't had a particularly happy life, and my love life is in every instance has turned rancid and squalid and life-threatening and evil and foul. It's enough to make a woman want to exit stage left just for that alone, and yet I survived all of that too. Don't ask me how I do it. Maybe it's Sir James Douglas standing at my left shoulder, pushing me forwards. Maybe that's what I mean about the portal. Maybe it's not a portal. Maybe it's a spirit guide saying, "Nee, lassie, you're gonna make it. I'm determined." Well, why? Why should I make it when I haven't made it before? And there's been so much sadism and cruelty and befoulments. Why should I continue to make it? And yet each day I take off my CPAP mask, take a photo of my sleep results out of academic interest, and to show my enemies on Facebook that each day I'm still alive, still breathing, sometimes a little bit precariously. I noticed that on all the YouTube ads, about 5 times an hour, they're pushing antivirals and going on about the vulnerable people, which was how they pushed the COVID vaccines, telling us we were all vulnerable and we were all going to die if we got COVID, and pushed the vaccines on people, and guess what? People died from the vaccines too. So that was an evil beyond words and worlds, promising safe and effective, and killing the able-bodied and the young mostly. Savage. So I see these ads and I actually want to reach my hand through and punch the actor or the government henchman right in the face, because we all know that they're lying. And yes, I'm one of the vulnerable people with my respiratory system. Well, I didn't die when I caught COVID, at least once that I know of, possibly 2 or 3 times. And I didn't die from 3 strangulations either. I didn't die of grief and heartache when I was played for a fool with my love life, although it did cross my mind that maybe it was time I just quit this ugly, fetid existence. But I won't give them that, my enemies, the fake lovers and the fake friends. You won't get me to Virginia Giuffre myself. I know you tried. I remember one night you even cranked up that audio overlay, Let the Boy Watch, after I had complained that I found it triggering because pedophilia is triggering for me. You sadistically cranked that right up, thinking hopefully the bitch will go home and top herself. No, the bitch doesn't top herself for any man, woman or child. Too many people have already tried to kill me historically throughout my life, and no, you won't win against me either, my darling. My darling one. You know who I'm speaking to, don't you, people of Earth? I'm sure you do. Anyway, that was a depravity that night, which ironically I was grateful for. It gave me confirmation that I wasn't paranoid or imagining that someone that had been so welcoming and warm and affectionate and kind and sweet had suddenly turned to become an abject enemy. On the subject of pedophilia, speaks volumes, doesn't it? Speaks volumes. So it's sick and it's twisted and it's evil, but I don't have to buy into that bullshit anymore. I'm free in another paradigm. I'm not safe though, but I've never been safe. And I was not going to be safe with people who thought enabling and promoting pedophilia was funny or a good idea. So I sit here on Hochmanai, descendant of Scots from Dumfries, the Anderson family, and a descendant of the Irish, Phillips and Dailies, a descendant of the Myers and the Kissows and the Weisses, and on my non-biological grandfather's side, Quant, but they're not biological, so I don't actually count them. Only pays to count your lineage through the ones you know, that your blood runs through your veins, people of Earth. So anyway, and I mustn't forget my great grandfather biological grandfather, Patula, whose magic is inherited, but only if you choose to open to it and invite that into your system of modus operandi, and let that magic run through you like a lightning rod and guide you in these dark times. He was a powerful witch, my grandfather, powerful witch. But I never got to meet him or my grandmother because they died long before I was even a twinkle in my father's eye. That was his terminology, not mine, by the way. Bit gross, isn't it? Had to turn even that into sort of earthy, ribald humour that had a tinge of grossness to it. Well, better to be conceived by a man who expressed genuine desire and attraction and passion than to be conceived from a man who was a soul rapist or a natural rapist, or someone who had no love for you at all, for your mother at all. That's a befoulment without words. Beyond words, I mean. Right, dark thoughts this afternoon. Dark thoughts. But I've been thinking too a lot about the Brooklyn and how it's an amplification. There was a deep magic running through that club that I participated in and that I relished in, actually. The sweetness and kindness of fellow dancers and some of the musicians that were heartfelt and sweet to me. But it was very much like an amplitude hedron. It's down in a kind of a dungeon, which speaks volumes why the BDSM types liked it. And you go down the stairs, and it's kept reasonably dark. But the staff are quite wonderful and welcoming and friendly and sweet and generous. And were very kind and supportive of me. Even until recent times. I mean, I'm still going there on occasion. So there's no darkness or horror attached to the staff per se. In fact, if anything, they were only very, very supportive of me. Perhaps they recognised my wildness and my freedom fighting and the deep love I felt for not just a man, but all of the people that came and went from that club with good, kind, honouring intentions. It was the closest to being part of a community or a tribe I've ever come, really. Sad but true. Very, very disappointing to see that peter out, get filtered out. But some of the people that I was very fond of, left the job there, or one young couple were overseas. They were lovely to me. And I'm loath to name them in case there's repercussions. Someone that was really rotten and evil against me might lash out at the ones that were actually kind to me. I started to wonder if that's what was happening, why they were leaving the jobs. But that's paranoia, isn't it? The egocentric and paranoid. It does make me wonder, though. does make you wonder when everything and everyone that was good and kind to you gets shunted off and you're left standing there wondering what the fuck happened. Could be just a coincidence though. Could be just a mere coincidence. But yes, it definitely had an amplification of emotions in certain points of the night in that club. But then I guess that happened with me personally in any club that I danced at. By the third set, I'm revved up and my emotions are raw and I'm writhing to the music because I've been pushing all the emotions in and out to the beat of the music and the drums and the guitars and the singing, and it's an energy that builds and builds and builds till you reach catharsis. Anyway, I've taken a step back because I could see there was a certain degree of venality, and I choose not to participate in that for whatever agendas or rationalisations. Christmas acting out, I don't participate in that. Why don't I participate in it? Perfectly capable of fighting back if I choose to, but I simply can't be asked because I endured and survived all those kinds of behaviours every fucking Christmas as a child and an adolescent until I grew up, converted to Judaism and refused to participate in Christmas any longer. There's a reason for that, apart from the fact that I became a Jew. I abhor those kind of family or group dynamics where people wait till you're lonely and vulnerable and fucking kick you in your face when they think you're down. I hate that. It's weak, it's sadistic, and it's perverted. I hate it with every fibre of my being. So on that note, I've digressed enough. I've had my little say, had my little rant. I've made beautiful Pegasus silver ingots, which are the symbol of freedom, which I love. Flying too close to the sun, though, will get you burnt, and I got burnt for loving beyond reason and not actually knowing who it was I was loving and being completely taken by surprise by the deception that was played on me, and hence a complicated grief and quite considerable unresolved anger, because it's not nice to play games with people's emotions. It's not cricket, it's not kosher, it's not cool, motherfuckers. Plural, because there was more than one person involved in that, trust me. Anyway, having said that, let's look at little Kermit. It's getting in his toy box. What you doing, Kermit? Oh, you saw me film you. Are you going to play with your toys? Are you going to play with the toys? Go on, go play with your toys. That's it, good boy. You've got gum nuts. Mummy threw those in the other day. I wanted to see what you would do with them. Gum nuts, Bo. You're not doing any playing, no. Kermie's got the gum nuts and the sunflower seeds. You're very busy boys. Right, I've digressed enough I was about to say, but that was cute. So here we go, people of Earth. The ones who love me truly and honourably and heartfelt and genuine. I'll find you and you'll find me, and we'll build our own tribe. You're out there somewhere, somehow, perhaps in the next dimension when I enter the world beyond this one. But I'm not in a hurry to do that. I'm enjoying my birdies and my creativity and my garden. I'm enjoying what's left of my life, although it's a bit fucking shredded and shattered and decompensated. I'm holding it together like Odysseus strapped to the mast, not buying into your siren, antediluvian bullshit songs. So, not buying into it at all. I deserve better than being played for a fucking idiot. Anyway, the year ends at midnight tonight. Tomorrow will be a new year, but it's same shit, different day most of the time. What you doing, Cookie Boys? Are you laughing? Good boys. Yes, even the birds say, it'll be the same thing, Mama T. Nothing changes if you don't make allowances for the changes to come into play. I did make allowances, boys. I expected big changes. Huge, big loves, and here we are. Same. So, with laughter in our souls delivered by the Australian kookaburras, let us begin chapter 20. The battle for the city of Cumulodunum began in thunder, with god spears of lightning dancing across the gilded roof tiles, and rain falling in unbroken sheets from the ocean of the sky. Kunuma's she-bears, just going to eat some blueberries while I read too. Sweetness, good for me. It'll keep me alive. Just to piss some of you off. I doubt anyone who truly hates me with a passion would deign to watch my videos, so we need not worry about that, people of Earth. We'll just keep living our best lives, all of us together but apart, strutting our stuff, choosing joy and peace and triumph over oppression. Kunuma's she-bears opened the assault for the honour of it, and because they fought on foot and could pass safely over treacherous ground in the pre-dawn dark when mounted warriors could not. Naked, bearing no lights, drenched under continuous rain, they ran in a wave of silent destruction down the long slope to the city, across pasture land still muddied from the winter herds, past ploughed furrows ready for the spring sowing, under the Victory Arch, and past the empty plinth of Victory's statue, with the fragments of its breaking still scattered on the pathway below, and onto the first of the trenches that had been dug across the trackways to cripple the incoming horses. Suddenly I feel so itchy, like I've been bitten alive. Tis what it is, people there. As they had for the past 5 nights, retired Roman veterans of the 20th Legion stood guard over the trenches to protect them against the gangs of youths and children who came in the night to undo their labours of the previous day. Men in late middle age who had thought their night guard days long behind them had drawn lots from a legionary helmet in the old ways of their service and grumbled when they lost. They had stood through the night and were tired and hungry and nervous of wandering ghosts and the more tangible threats of insurgent youths and the warriors whose fires had lit the hillsides through the night and then, very suddenly, had all been put out. Why are you chewing that, little Bo? You're a strange little bird sometimes. Did you know that you're a strange little bird? He says, yes, but you're a strange mama too sometimes too. Yes, I know. I can be a bit weird. There's a sun ray or something coming through the tree and it looks like my screen's cracked, but I'm sure it's a light beam. Can you see it on your end? I don't know. I'll just move us back here to avoid that. It's gone now. Must be just coming through just at an angle behind the foliage and the frangipani tree. Right, people of Earth. The night guards had been watching that and shouting questions one to the other, when the rain had come and the crashing thunder. Might pour another glass of water actually. They were no longer young men to stand out in the rain overnight. They had backed away into shelter, staring out into the blinding emptiness of the deserted city that became, just as suddenly, not at all deserted, but full of death, smiling with sharp knives. Wet and befuddled, they died without fuss. Their bodies helped to fill the trenches they had guarded and were soon covered over with mud and rubble so that horses could pass over the places where they had been. Sounds awful, beyond awful. But all wars are hell. Even wars fought by the Boadicea, although I understand that was a righteous war and necessary. But the outcome is never quite so righteous in the end. Consequences of your actions, people of Earth. A small unmanned barricade stood within the trench line, built of stone, rubble and timber. Oh, there's that streak of light again. Right, back we go. It's worse, it's better, it's worse. Got rid of it again. Where were we? Built of stone, rubble and timber and parts of villas recently abandoned. With the trenches made safe, the she-bear ran on and began to dismantle it. It's kind of a liminal space. I'm looking down, I'm reading from the book, but on the left-hand page, that light that was shining onto, across the screen is shining through my glasses, and you can see the outline of this lens, and there where my eye would be, this bright rainbowy kind of light. In fact, if I could take a photo, if I wasn't filming, I would. It's actually quite fucking trippy, talking about portals and dimensionality. But it's just a trick of the light shining through the trees. But anyway, just my imagination. The dreamer within the dream, opening the 49 gates of holiness, closing them fast behind us as we move forward into a better reality co-created with the gods, people of Earth. That's going to be my constant work for the rest of my life, trying to build a better life out of the shit fuckery of what was done to us in the last 5 years. Finding people who align with me, people who honour me and care for me and verily enjoy my company, and whose hearts are loyal and true, because we're going to need that more than ever as things begin to unfold. True hearts and minds and souls that have your back, your sides and your front. Anyway, I may not live long enough to even have to worry about that kind of scenario anyway. Maybe that's why I'm being shown all this time slips and memory flips. Maybe I'm being jettisoned out of here. Who can tell? It's in the lap of the gods. Either way, I'll know when the time comes what is my true destiny, and he'll be holding my hand at the end. If anyone, can't even rely on that anymore. By the gods, it's evil, truly evil. Best not to think about it. Wet and befuddled. They died without... Oh, we read that. Sorry. We were down a paragraph. Right. With the trenches made safe, the she-bear ran on and began to dismantle it. Dawn came slowly, clouded by the rain. Kunamar worked with his bare hands, hauling broken bricks and whole sections of plastered wattle to the side of the path. At some point, he realised that the dark was no longer complete and that he could see the shape of Ulla nearby. Her dark hair was plastered to her head, so that the ends met underneath her chin, and white lime paint that had swirled on her arms and shoulders instead puddled grittily in the creases of her elbows. A smear of it streaked her face across the bridge of her nose, highlighting the shape of her face. It would have been easy for Kunama to imagine her a ghost if his fears had leaned that way. She grinned at him, and he lifted a roof beam together, got splinters in their palms. And they lifted a roof beam together and got splinters in their palms, and stood for a moment, teasing them out with their teeth. She was close enough for him to smell her sweat, to see the smear of her spit around her mouth and on her palm before the rain washed it off. Trying to get rid of that light streak. What about if we go back a bit? It's still there, but it's not as obvious. It's just going through the top of my head like a spear. Right. Let me just repeat that. It would have been easy for Kunama to imagine her a ghost if his fears had leaned that way. I know we read that by the gods. Right, let me just recalibrate. Lightning flashed, and she was silver suddenly, laughing. In the gap before the thunder, she put her hand to Kunama's one ear and shouted over the drumming rain, "We'll never light signal fires in this weather. The wood's too wet. You'll need to get the flag on a roof somewhere." I know. The storm was moving away. There was a longer gap between the light and the sound. Just want to see how long this chapter is. Quite long, people of Earth. I'm like a cat on a hot tin roof today. Like my energy's scattered everywhere. I'm sensating presences. There's some kind of mischief at play. I'm sensing that too. But I'm holding it at bay. Because you shall not pass. You've done enough harm to me personally and my people, my tribe, my true loved ones. I'm holding it all at bay, people. And I've had a lovely day, all things considered. And the birds are having a lovely day. And every day is a lovely day. Peaceful, even alone, but peaceful. The storm was moving away. There was a longer gap between the light and the sound. Kunama had time to shout that much back into Ula's ear, and then the gods crashed the clouds together, and the noise drowned out all talking. He tapped her arm and felt her follow where he led. With the other she-bear around them, they ran north. It's doing it again. Well, I guess maybe I should just turn the iPhone in another direction. Maybe if I move this way, move the chair around. It's driving me a bit batty, to be honest. Let's move the chair around. How's that? Oh yeah, that's better. Right. Now I feel a bit claustrophobic because I'm too close to the hammock. That's better. Yeah, because it's a beautiful light, but it makes a mess of my iPhone screen while we're filming. Just grab my water. Right. He had time to shout that much into Ulla's ear, and then the gods crashed the clouds together, and the noise drowned out all talking. He tapped her arm and felt her follow where he led. Tell you what, I might have to go back to bed, people of Earth. I feel quite tired. I guess I've done a lot in recent days. Nothing that you can really show much except for a few photos on Instagram or YouTube, or on Facebook and YouTube, but it's been a good 3 or 4 days of solid work, and sometimes it's too much for my nervous system. It's a shame that I'm like this, but that's what mere survival will do to you. Make you unable to sustain long periods of activity or work, and that's why I'm on a disability pension actually. Don't worry, it pisses me off too. I would like to have been successful and aligned and able to provide for myself handsomely and comfortably instead of living on other people's charity or condescension. Fuck that shit. But I had to humble myself to the fact that there was no other way that I could survive than to come with cap in hand and beg for assistance from time to time. And it's demoralising. It's demoralising that I wasn't able to make it on my own. It really is demoralising, people of Earth. It's one of the things that can bring me to the brink of suicide, that feeling of not being able to live a normal life amongst other humans and provide for myself adequately, albeit handsomely. Never mind. The gods provide and life goes on, and I must choose to be happy in spite of it all. To spite it all. Happiness is the best revenge, people of Earth. Remember that. Anyway, some idiot thought that I was trying to steal his fame or wealth or status or power, or I don't know what I don't know what he thought, but it was idiotic and completely wrong. I was just merely happy to contribute to the music scene and dance my dance and feel like I belonged and was welcomed for the first and very likely the last time of my life, because I won't get lured in like that ever again, play for a fool like that ever again. That was a feated evil and unconscionable, but I don't think they really meant it that way in the beginning. It was all very sweet in the beginning, but something demonic or someone fueled by envy and spite couldn't even bear to see me happy just once. Dirty motherfuckers. So there is that. Anyway, With the other she-bear around them, they ran north and a little east to a substantial brick-built house that had clay tiles on the roof, not the gilded bronze of the villas around them. The outer wall was high enough to be useful, but not too high to climb. Kunamar had noted it from the hillside in the early part of 3 days' watching, and was uncommonly pleased to find it not yet demolished, as so many of the outer buildings had been, to make a barrier to protect the inner city. Ula saw the possibility, as he had done. She said, it will make a good place to raise the banner to the Boadicea, and a better one to watch the battle, for where we are most needed. Yes, he was coming to expect her to think as he thought, even to depend on it. She had been the same when they lifted the roof beam from the barricade, and before that filling the trench, and before that in endless small ways through the days of planning. Something had changed since the annihilation of the 9th, more than the flogging or the winter in training. The act of having killed together in battle had brought them together as true shield mates. Just gonna spritz my birds and spritz myself. Here we go, my boys. I know you're hot. It's hot today. It's another stinking hot fucking day. What can I say? Hot, 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 hot. Happy New Year. Fuck it all. Hot. You have to love. This is how we get in Brisbane, Australia in the summer. There's 9 months of this. There's lots of fuck it all and I'm hot and oh well. What can I say? There's people out in the world living in cold climates that would kill to be in my position right now, so you know, it's all good, people of Earth. I mean, I get it. You playing with your swing, little Bo? Are you a good boy? Are you a good boy? Yes, Muppety. Why are you even asking me, am I a good boy? You know I'm a good boy. It's a ridiculous rhetorical question. The old song spoke of it, them being shield mates. Kunamar had seen it in his mother and her relationship with Caradoc and later with Sigfa. As a child watching, he had thought he understood. Now, in the heart of the storm, with the ghosts of the dead walking openly towards the gods, with living men set to kill them as spears throw away, with the war host on the slope awaiting his signal, it came to him that this was a door opening into a new world, that he was standing on the threshold looking in, which paraphrases what I said at the beginning of this video. Bit of an odd synchronicity there, people of Earth. And that it was somewhere he badly wanted to go. I want to cry when I think about it. I do, I want to cry. Never mind, people of Earth. There's a better world for me. I'll create it. Starts from in here. good people, loyal, faithful, loving, generous, caring people who have my back, my front and my sides. Stand with me in pride and honour, because they've seen the measure of my soul and they know what it is I stand for. He thought of Inuit who was dead and knew that the same door had opened there, and that for all of his life a part of him would regret having closed it when he did. Ola, later, we can talk on it later. She was no longer grinning. Her eyes were obscured by the rain and poor light and too hard to see. But her face was still and open, and it seemed that his thinking had carried her with him, or that hers had carried him, and she had reached this place first. He said, "Know that I care for you and need you in battle." "I do," a grin in the lightning. "And you have to go up now and set the banner, or we'll be too late." What was that I caught at the corner of my eye? Oh, little Indian minor bird had a drink. Happy little bird. Sacred spaces for the birdies, isn't it? Oh, he's having a swim now. Sweet. She braced her feet wide and set her shoulders to the wall and linked her hands to make a stirrup. Kunamar took a pace back, then vaulted up, stepping lightly on her shoulder in passing. His toes smeared mud on her skin, and the ball of his foot slipped sideways, but he was already gone, grappling for the guttering and the tiles beyond, pressing his palms on wet clay, pushing up and up, thinking of the bear to find the power for the climb, swinging his legs up to catch a purchase. And then he really was up, standing on the sloping roof with the rain bouncing to knee height, hard as hail, and the wild wind lifting his hair in spite of the wet, and the city spreading dark beneath the storm. With light only within the ring of the solid inner barricade that protected the heart of the city, where families kept night fires burning in the hearth for warmth and light and the illusion of safety. The roof tiles were greased with moss. Water hissed past his feet, flowing over the guttering. Just noticed that nearly all the marker seats have gone from my ring. Nearly all. There's only one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 left. Well, it's an old ring. I could melt it down. I didn't make this, I bought it. I could melt it down and turn it into something else, but I had it for many, many years, about 30 years. I'm disappointed that it's lost all its shiny, shiny stones. Oh. Ah, well. These things happen. I'm not sure where I segued. I'm really flowing today. Picking up a lot of energy too. Ah well. Swinging his legs to catch a purchase, and then he really was up, standing on the sloping roof with the rain bouncing to knee-height, hard as hail, and the wild wind lifting his hair in spite of the wet, and the city spreading dark beneath the storm, with light only within the ring of the solid inner barricade that protected the heart of the city, where families kept night fires burning in the hearth for warmth and light and the illusion of safety. The roof tiles were greased with moss. Water hissed past his feet, flowing over the guttering. Spreading his toes wide, he stood upright, feeling the tug of the wind and the power of the rain. The gods sent to Kunamar a distant roll of thunder, and he shouted his own name, and then his mother's, and then the first 8 names of the she-bear into the retreating dark. The wind caught the words and tore them apart, but the rain had lessened enough to let him untie the flag from his waist and tie it again to the stick Ula passed up to him, so that when the last flicker of lightning came to scorch the sky and raise steam from the bronze tiles on a neighbouring roof, he knew without question that his mother and her warriors could see him, and the serpent spear in red on Iceni blue that he waved, and the bear's paw print in white on the lower left-hand corner, for the heart of the she-bear in whose light he lived. The war host came in a storm of hooves and baying hounds. There was no need for secrecy now, if there had ever been. They blew horns and clashed their blades on their shields, and some had thought to bring tinder and clay pots, and lit brands of pitch and resin and tallow, all bound about with sheep's wool, so that they burned in spite of the rain, and the tide of horses was sparked here and there with the fire they brought to Kumula-Dunam. They ringed the city and moved in slowly through the deserted streets. The horses churned wet mud to slurry, and the trackways became trickling streams under the last of the rain. The height and breadth of the inner barricade halted them. Whole houses had been demolished to make it, and the bodies of hanged men lay in the foundations to lend the strength of their bones to its holding. The enemy gathered in growing numbers within the safety of its ring. Kunamar could see them from his vantage point on the rooftop. Men in old armour, scurrying from house to house, shouting in Latin and Trinovanti, calling up the Atrebatan mercenaries, paid for with a merchant's gold, and the last remaining tribal residents of the city who had kept loyal to Rome. Connemara held his flag aloft until the first horses were within reach of the barrier. His mother rode past him with Sigfa riding as shieldmate on her left, as she had done so often on Mona after Caradoc was gone. With newly opened eyes, Connemara saw the shadow dragging at his mother's flame, but he saw too the tilt of Briaca's head, the beaten bronze of her hair, made dark by the rain, saw the shift in her weight as she lifted her sword, and the stiffness that came from the unhealed wounds in her back. And he saw with a generous heart the matching movements from Sigfa as she kept cover on the Boadicea. For the first time in his life, Connemara understood how his sister shifted her weight on her horse a fraction to come in on the left so that her body made an extra shield for Briaca, and how this was done without thought on either part, but was simply the way that they rode into battle. Something small and sweet pierced him, like the song of a lark on a moorland, and he knew that he had found by accident something unique, shared with only a few, and that, if he had coveted it any sooner, the yearning alone would have killed him. It was good to be adult and see these things. He looked around for others he knew in the seething tide of riders and saw the pair links or lack of them and the way that they fought. Valerius and his Thracian cavalryman, blessedly, were out of sight. Further back, or coming in from the south, leaving the east to Ardacos, who had led his own hand-picked warriors in from the eastern gate, closest to the temple of Claudius, which was easily the most defensible building in the city, and therefore the best guarded. There the inner barricades were made of poured mortar, and the streets had been scattered with iron spikes against the warriors' horses. Sorry, I picked at a scab. I didn't realise it was a scab. Oh dear. Anyway, I do that, pick at things, and it can be a bit unpleasant to people of Earth. There the inner barricades were made of poured mortar, and the streets had been scattered with iron spikes against the warriors' horses. Awful. In the west, where Connemara stood on his rooftop, The fighting began in earnest as the Boadicea's warriors dismounted, leaving their horses to stand in the mud while they began to search out the weaknesses in the barrier. There were few places open to assault, but gateways had been left for the Roman veterans, who had kept night guard on the trenches, and they were hard to close effectively from the inside. Do you want another spritz, my boys? Nice, isn't it? Mama's going to have another spritz. Yes, I know. It's cooling. You're not being punished. You're a good boy, but it just cools you down a bit. Right. Where were we? Aha. Kunama watched a gaggle. Kunama watched a gaggle of young warriors group into a wedge opposite one of these openings. From his vantage point, he could see the Atrebatan mercenaries and Roman veterans gather on the inside. The Atrebatans carried hunting spears, broad-bladed and long, with a cross piece at the neck that kept a boar from charging up the haft, but could equally be used to hook a shield from the arm of an unwary, untested warrior. A great many of the warriors with the Boadicea were untested. Those who had taken part in the annihilation of the Ninth, and so considered themselves battle-hardened, were with Ardakos or Valerius, coming in from other angles. Got Spirit nagging at me, you need to get some more marzipan, Mama D. The shops are closed tomorrow, and I'm fairly certain they will have run out of Lubeck marzipan because they only bring it out at Christmas. But something in my spirit's craving marzipan, marzipan, it's called in German. Why am I craving marzipan? I eat a whole packet of it in one sitting in 5 minutes. It's not like I even linger over it and savour it. It's just wolf down and that's it. What's in marzipan that I'm craving? Sugar and almonds. It'll be the almonds I'm actually craving. But it's a bit weird when it came to me as like an external energy saying, you need to buy some marzipan, you need to buy some. It wasn't even my own thought. I'm reading a story to you. It's a bit ridiculous, isn't it? Right, it's very hard to focus when you've got all these energies all gabbling at you about nonsensical things that make no cogent sense, except almonds. There's an almond here in its shell that the birdie's kicked out. I'll go and get that. That's probably what it is. In my peripheral vision, I'm seeing that and it's irking me. Right, here we go. Your mother's multi-dimensional, multitasking, driving herself bonkers. Where's your almond you kicked out, you naughty bird? I don't know how he even kicked it out because I had trouble getting it to go back in. Odd. Must have fallen out of the toy box when I brought it in to them this morning. When I brought it outside, I mean. The youths whom Kunama watched forming their wedge had done so once in practice and never against a real opponent. The men waiting within the barrier sensed it, and their line became visibly more solid. Ulla was beneath the villa still, waiting. She looked up as Kunamar hissed her name and grinned at what he said. 5 other she-bear were within reach, Skyros and his girl cousin, and the 3 others knit most closely to the Boadicea's son. They did not consider themselves battle-hardened. They had seen the Boadicea fight before her wounding and seen Valerius afterwards, and they knew exactly how much experience they lacked. But they had spent the winter training with Ardokos and Gunovar in the use of the knife, and not one of them was unscarred or unsure of where lay the line between living and dying. It can be a bit of a fine line too. Wow. The Tanya, aka Mamati, aka Psychedelic Dreamer, is alive against all the odds for a reason, even if I don't know what that reason is, still or yet to be revealed. But it is what it is, people of Earth. They were fit too, and able to vault easily up on the stirrup of Ola's linked hands to the rooftop. She came last, pulled by Kunamar himself, who lay on his belly with 2 of the others holding his ankles so that he could grasp her wrists and pull her bodily up. They were armed only with knives, and the storm no longer hid them. Kunamar jammed the haft of his flagpole in a crack between 2 tiles, and then, stooping low, led them at a run across the rooftops, jumping from green mossed clay to the brilliant verdigris of bronze, and then, more delicately, and with prayers to the bear, onto a single pitched thatched roof, with a roof beam that was barely more than a stick, and swayed as they ran across it. Before he left the gilded roof, Kunamar had seen his mother reach the barricade and turn right towards the south, where a greater opening had shown itself. Since then she had been out of sight. For the first time in several years. What is that? Some seed. For the first time in several years, he was very glad he could neither see her nor be seen in battle. Very badly he did not want the Boadicea to rescue this particular group of untried youths at this particular breach in the barricade. A midden gave an easy, if pungent, route from the rooftops down to the ground. Cunamar grabbed a handful of thatch as he left the roof and used it to clean the filth from his feet and calves as the others joined him. Yuck. They were in an alleyway within the circle of the barricade. To their right, 2 groups of 8 men stood with their square-sided Roman shields held edge to edge in 2 equal lines before the opening in the barricade. One on the right gave an order in Latin and they drew their swords. They were not Roman, but mercenaries, men of the Atrebates, whose grand elders had fought against Julius Caesar. Atrebates. In 2 generations, they had taken on the weapons and language of Rome. Cunamar kissed them softly and with rising elation. Dawn was real now, and the weather easing. The air was no longer a single sheet of rain. He and his few she-bear were alone behind a wall that sheltered thousands of the enemy. Death was a word or a breath away. Its promise was glorious. But life and victory were more glorious still. Indeed. Ooh, the wind's come up quite a bit. Lost my spot because of the wind. Let me find where we were. We were over 2 pages. Right. But life and victory were more glorious still. As I said, the best revenge is happiness, people of Earth. Living a full and vibrant, joyous, peaceful life, surrounded by people who genuinely love you and have your back, your sides and your front and are present with you. Present 3D reality, not picking up on their ghastly energies that are based on what actually. Just have to shrug it off. Ola tapped his forearm. We can't take them as we did in the forest, or they'll see us. There are spare javelins beyond where they're standing. He had seen them from the rooftop. You and I need to go to the far side to get them. The other three stay on this side. Pardon me. Wait for the wedge to hit. They waited. The youths outside the barricade were chanting the name of the Boadicea. At a certain point, when the noise had gathered their courage for them, they charged forward, all on foot. Hello, Mr. Crow. Have you come to get some seeds? There's plenty there. Turkey didn't eat much of it this morning, actually. Put it out for him this morning. Or are you going to eat the lorikeet mix instead? Really? Are you really going to do that? Or whatever. Weird little bird. Do you like how he announces his arrival, though, with a flourish of crow catastrophization? Vocalization is probably the more accurate word. We're not catastrophic today, bird. We're flowing with the energies. Flowing with the energies. Flowing with the energies. Pretty boys. I know, you're my pretty boys. Kunama heard the barked Latin and the names of Jupiter, Mars, Ultor, and the horned god spoken in Atrebatan, and saw the first line of mercenaries lean their shoulders against their shields and hold them secure, while their comrades stabbed from behind with javelins, aiming for the faces and eyes of the youths who came at them, shouting war cries. Screaming, the youths died, as it had been clear from the start that they would. At the height of it, Kunama dodged left and then right out of the alley. The javelins he sought lay loosed from their bundles with the binding thongs ready cut so the men could reach for them cleanly. Kunama picked up two, one in each hand. He was at the far end of the mercenaries' row. The man nearest him was at full stretch, his javelin buried in the face of a young girl warrior. He saw the shadow coming for him and cursed and tried to pull free, and failing, jumped back and reached for his sword. The javelin took his throat uncleanly because he was still turning. Ulla struck past. Because the man at whom she aimed was turning, because Kunama was in the way and was unbalanced, because a man was thrashing his way to death near her feet, she missed, and the force of her strike carried her, too, off balance. Kunama saw the lift of her shoulder and heard her short, stifled oath. He saw her brown skin almost washed clean of the lime paint, and the rugged red-white lines of the scars on her back from the flogging, a thing he had almost forgotten and had contrived not to see in any of them for days now. and saw her stumble towards the man he had killed, who was not yet dead. In the same slow, waterlogged movement, he saw death come at her as the dying man raised his sword. He had no need to put strength into the thrust, only hold it still at breast height and let her fall onto it as she was doing, slowly, liquidly, inexorably. Ulla, no! Kunama had not known that he could scream so, nor that he cared as much. Death was beautiful and glorious, and he had no intention of letting his newly discovered shield mate find glory in the heart of the she-bear this soon. He was off balance, but not as badly as she was, and in the trapped time of too many futures, the god allowed him to move, allowed him to slew sideways and stretch out his arm and push her away in her headlong flight, so that she came up against the man she had tried to kill, and the wicked, honed iron of the upheld blade scored instead along the inside of Kunama's thigh and out again, missing his testes by the thickness of one night's sharpening. 1/1000th of an inch. Whew! Yowza, yowza, yowza. They were in battle and could not stop. Kunama's man had died and Ulla's had not, until he was taken from behind by Skeros' girl cousin, whose name was Adedomara, or Mara when they were in battle, and there was no time to shout anything that took longer than a breath. Mara, right! There was no time, and an Atrebatan on her right whose brother was dying because of her. Skeros took him, striking low and angling up to pierce the muscle of his thigh. And, by luck, although he would later claim it as skill, the great pumping vessel of the man's thigh that pulsed gouts of bright blood in time to his dying heartbeat. Two others struck, and if none of them made clean kills, their men went down and were no longer a danger. They were still 7 against 12, and those men shielded and armoured and ready now, turning away from the gap, but for 3 left to hold it, who had only to place their shields at the barricade's opening and lean on them, and those outside could not reach past. The other 9 made a wedge of their own properly and levelled their gladii and came forward at a half run, aiming to split the straggling line of Kunama's she-bears in half. Bears, break on the wedge. They had practiced this only once. Hello, Scrub Turkey. He's back. Come on then, BB. Go and eat your wild seeds that I bought for you. You're all costing me a bloody fortune. But I actually don't resent it. I enjoy watching them feast and visit the garden. They're very sweet, all of them. My babies, aren't you, Kermie? You're my babies. They had practiced this only once. Valerius had insisted on it when they looked down from the hillside and watched the retired veterans drilling with the Atrebatan mercenaries in the square before the forum. When Cunamar had resisted, Ardakos had taken Valerius's side. The veterans are old. They're not stupid. The time to find out how to act is now, not when they have drawn up in formation against you. She-bears had done as was asked of them then, and they did it again now. Not smoothly, but well enough, so that the Atrebatans ran onto nothing but the side of a timber warehouse, and those in the front had to swerve to one side, and a greater bulk behind had to slow for fear of crushing them. Valerius had said the legions could reverse a wedge and come back again in any direction at the shout of a single command or the lifting note of a trumpet. These men were not Roman. They had not trained through a dozen winters in all weathers and all manoeuvres. That fact alone kept the she-bear alive. It was hard to think clearly, to consider tactics, when the blood was underfoot and the air sharp with fierce sweat. Cunamar sprinted left. What you doing, you boy? And felt Ulla and Mara with him. Mummy's boy. Mummy's beautiful boy. Ascaris was on the other side of the wedge, with 3 of their 7, their 6. One was down, cut in the side by a passing blade. There was no time to see who it was, only that it was not Ulla or Mara, or that Scaros, terrified, was running the wrong way. The barricade made a safe wall to protect their backs. What you doing, handsome boy? On your swing, stalking the bow. The barricade made a safe wall to protect their backs. Cunamar reached it and raised his stolen javelin. On me! His voice reached over the screams of the wounded. Ulla and Mara came to him and faced the mercenaries, who might not have been able to reverse a wedge, but were more than able to stand together in a line, and had done so, and were waiting now, looking sideways along the street, holding their shields linked, unshaken, laughing, waiting. There are veterans coming down past the house where you left your flag. Ulla said it quietly. Cunamar could feel her heat, smell her sweat, and her unconcern with dying. She had nearly died. He had saved her. These things came to him separately, unconnected. She glanced at him fleetingly without fear. We could make the line of the bear. If we're going to die, it would be to best effect. No one had stood in the line of the bear. No one who had stood in the line of the bear had ever survived to tell of it after. Each warrior marked a circle in the dirt or on the turf and was oath sworn not to leave it, except to attack bodily the nearest of the enemy with hands and teeth and knife, using flesh and bone as the foil to trap the enemy's blade. So that in dying at least one ghost would be their companion in the journey through the other forests to the heart of the she-bear, to whom their souls were given. What you doing, cheeky boy? Very playful this afternoon. Been sitting so deathly quiet all morning that it was freaking me out. But you've all perked up. Well, you've both perked up, rather. Good boys. Scaros was nowhere to be seen. The other three were close enough to hear the idea. They were afraid and courageous together, and were already looking at Ulla as if she had joined the bear and become part of the mystery. Gunnar felt a fierce, unexpected pride for himself, for the others, most especially for Ulla. For the first time in his life, he knew that he had something to live for that mattered more than proving himself in the eyes of his mother and Ardakos. Siegfried's voice rang distant in his head, separated by time and war. A leader sees the greater picture and knows that lives matter more than glory. He had known she was right when she said it. As with the shield mates, understanding was different and ran far deeper. Urgently, he wanted to stop the battle, to find his sister and tell her that he had finally understood. There was no time. As Ulla had said, a company of Roman veterans was coming, and the three who held the breach in the barricade behind him had beaten back the youths of the wedge. For the she-bear, trapped on the wrong side of the wall, there was nowhere to go except up. Up! Stepping back to set his shoulders to the wall, Gunnar slid his knife into his belt and looped his fingers. He shouted at them over the howling of warriors. Over the barricade, on my shoulders, as we did with the flag. Ulla saw and understood. She was his shield mate and soulmate. She joined him and shouted at Mara. Go now before they see. Already the mercenaries were moving, breaking the line to run forward, surprised as much as cheated. Iceni warriors never left the heart of battle. Never. The Boadicea had done so once to save the children. The children were left now to save themselves and were hesitating. Mara stood still, numb, not knowing what to do. Kunama yelled, In the name of the bear, save yourselves. Ula, go first. Mara was moving. Ula would never leave him. He could see that. He had no power to order her, had no time. The mercenaries were within reach. He gave up and took his knife and said, so they could all hear, "No, you're right. We'll make the line of the bear." He was going to die. There were things he should do, invocations he should speak, hidden names of the bear he should hold in the forefront of his mind, where instead was the memory of Ula, clad in lightning, laughing, and the first of the Atrebatan mercenaries, coming in lazily, grinning, wall-eyed and flat-nosed, with his blade held out in front of him, with no idea at all that he was about to kill the Boadicea's son. Kunama spoke in his mind the ninth secret name of the she-bear and felt his knife blade slip in the sweat of his hand and cursed because there was only one chance to kill, and felt the mud warmly wet between his toes with another man's blood, and remembered all the things that he loved in life, all at once, in a rush. He stepped forward, bunching his muscles, and fixed his mind and his heart on the throat of the man who came at him, so that it became the whole of his world and a fitting target. Kermie's talking. He's talking, my Kermie boy. At the end he was amazed at the power of the terror he felt and how it lifted him past everything else, soaring. Soaring still, he made his leap. The noise was extraordinary. In the middle of it, he heard someone shouting his name. He thought it was Sigfa and wished he had made amends with her and knew that he would have to wait in the lands beyond life because he was dying and had not yet made his knife stroke, which was strange because the wall-eyed mercenary was no longer grinning and there was more blood between Kunama's toes when he landed on mud and not on the body of the man at whose throat he had aimed. He stumbled and put a hand out. And felt iron slice across his fingers and swore. A shadow passed over him. "Here, take it, damn you. There are 40 of them coming. Take the blade and do something useful with it." It was Sigfa, looking just like their father, and beautiful. Dumbly, Kunama took the blade she thrust at him. There was still no possible way to escape. He felt Ula at his shoulder and did not know if he should be glad they would make the crossing and come to the bear together, or sad that he had not survived to see more of the wonder of life. The Sigfa said, "Move to the right. let the others through. We need even numbers. He did as he was told because nothing made sense and the bear would be hunting for him. He waited to feel the pull of the forest and used the time to follow Ulla and Sigfa in a spider scuttle to their right, so that more shadows could come out of the gateway behind him and make a line, and then another. The incoming warriors were not of the she-bear. They did not fight naked and only with a knife, but clothed in leather and stolen chain armour with shields and long swords, and some of them with stolen legionary helmets. He recognised warriors he had seen fight against the legions in the west. The Braint was there. He had been Sigva's lover in the days before their captivity in Rome, and was a warrior of Mona, with all the responsibilities of that rank. As she had no reason, nor any means, to be here. Others stepped into line alongside her. Men and women who had fought in the invasion battles against the first influx of the legions and fled with the Boadicea and Caradoc to Mona to keep up the resistance there. They were as well drilled as the legionary veterans, more so because they had spent all their winter's training and had not sunk into the wine vats of retirement in their twilight years. Gee, a nice glass of wine would go down well right now. Mama tea. They made a line with Kunamar at the end of it. Ulla said, "I would be your shield as Sigfa is for your mother. Will you honour me and accept it?" He said, "It should be the other way around. You have the courage. I was slow and followed your lead." Ulla grinned. The crease it made in her cheeks was the last place where the white lime paint stayed. "You brought us to this," she said. "If we die now, it will be in the best company. Half the warriors of Mona are here." It was too late to argue. The veterans slowed and steadied and made the same decision. The two lines stood for a moment apart in mutual recognition, and then, surging equally forward, met in a cacophony of broken bone and buckled armour. Ulla became his shield. They fought together, with Sigfa always on the edge of their vision, bright-haired and brilliant, fighting with Braint for the first time since she was taken as prisoner to Rome. Partway through, when the dead began visibly to rise, it came to Kunamar that he was not going to die, and that this was a thing to celebrate, and that he could only do that fully when the line of veterans was gone and their city rested free under the Boadicea's banner. The shock and numbness left him, and he soared instead on new fear, one that transmuted into true battle fever. And that was the third new thing that came to him on the first day of Camulodunum's battle. He fought and killed and was hit and felt nothing, and saved Ulla and was saved by her, and saw the dead walk all around them, and felt each breath in a gift from the gods. And each breath out, his gift to them of continued living and of fighting and of killing and of friendship. They came to rest near the timber warehouse, with the winnowed crop of veterans behind them, the fallen made surely dead by a knife cut to the throat. Exhaustion lay on them, so that it was impossible to imagine lifting a blade one more time, or raising a shield, or fending off a thrust. Speech was a thing to be imagined for later. Shieldmates thanked those who had saved them with a nod and a croak. Wounded warriors bound the wounds of others, hurt more deeply. Someone passed round a goat skin of water. It was branded on one side with the serpent spear, and on the other with the heron of the elder of Mona. Kunama drank and passed it to his right, where Sigfa was leaning on her shield, laughing breathlessly at something someone else had said. She caught her brother's eye and sobered a little. That was good. We hadn't thought this would be the first breach. Briaka will be proud of you. He had forgotten his mother. There was a time when his own need to be seen would have kept her in his vision through any battle. He turned to look and so found that the gap in the barricade, which had been narrow enough for two men to defend easily, had widened and was being made wider by youths from the war host, who had organised themselves into teams and were dismantling the barriers far faster than the veterans had erected them. Somewhere at the back of the milling crowds were horses, and somewhere within them was his mother. Briaka had mud smeared across her face, so that it looked like a darker version of the she-bear paint. She was gaunt-faced and hollow-eyed, but she caught him looking and smiled back, and when Kunama had pushed his way through the gap to reach her, he read in her face the same kind of pride that he had felt for Ulla and had never truly seen before. The braids at her left temple had come loose, pulled by the weight of the kill feathers woven within them. She tugged one free and held it out. It was black, with a gold band around the quill for uncounted numbers of Romans slain. "You should have this," she said. "I never tried to make a bear line with 4 warriors in the face of 40 legionaries. Konama felt himself flush. You would never have been so foolish as to allow the warriors who followed you to be cornered with no alternative. A good leader sees ahead the dangers that will come. She eyed him for a long time. And smiled a little at the end of it. A good leader sees the way out of trouble and can make it happen. Perhaps my warriors would have listened to me and gone over the wall when I told them. That will come with time. It can't be forced. Even so, it was a good idea. That was true, and he knew it, and it had been his idea, not Ulla's. It was harder than he had ever imagined to accept the praise he had yearned for, freely given and deserved. He took the feather and did not try to hide the shake in his hands. He had no hair at the sides of his temples in which to braid it. He had shaved off an arc above his missing ear, and then again on the other side for balance. He wove his mother's feather into the queue that remained at the back. Around him, warriors he had known since childhood stopped to watch. He felt the weight of their experience and remembered what they had known of him in his youth and regretted it. I don't understand, he said to his mother. Why is Brant here and the warriors of Mona? Priaka waited until the feather had been fixed and fell flat against the back of his head. When she spoke, it was wryly, so that she sounded like Valerius. And it was hard to tell if the irony were tinged with humour or frustration. Because Luan MacCalma sent them to us, having decided that the war here had more need of trained warriors than his own war in the West. He has the full body of dreamers there, all soaked in the power of the God's Island, and he has Granny who has joined him. How could the legions possibly prevail against that? And thus concludes chapter 20 of Boadicea, Dreaming the Serpent Spear. Have a beautiful afternoon and evening and night time. Those of you celebrating New Year's Eve, Auld Lang Syne and all that jazz, babies. Take good care, be of good cheer. Love the ones who love you truly and honourably, faithfully and devotedly, and slough off the rest. They're of no consequence to your dreaming and your future potentiates. They've played their parts, and now it's time to continue swirling in infinity the psychedelic dream, the sanguinosis, the courage, the beauty, the art, the magic, the wonderment that is you, people of Earth, and the Tanya too. Separate but together. Bye for now. Happy New Year. May we be blessed with a beautiful world at long last. Build it and it will come. Bye for now.